Actually, let
Can
me
I
get
start off
this.
right quick? No, can I start off right quick?
Go ahead. All right, I got it pinned to the top. So anybody that's trying to buy the yearbook, it should be pinned to the top of the chat, and should be able to click the Amazon link and get it directly to your door. But go ahead.
Black Star has one album, okay? And what I keep trying to get people to express, because they have one album together, it feels more classic to you than it actually is. It's not a classic. It wasn't a classic when it came out. What year did it come out, Mike?
That was 1998. Very heavy year.
Mike, is that album anywhere close to being in the realm of Aquemini?
No,
Moment of Truth.
no,
It's dark and hell is hot.
no.
That was the standard for a classic that year. That album is not
Even
that.
Capital Punishment, because those are Pun was his what was their peers.
Capital Punishment's a better record than Black Star album. Yes.
I mean, I think pound for pound collectively, I'd say Flesh of My Flesh as well, Volume Two. Um,
Yeah, Volume 2. Yes.
I
So
think
all these
400
albums,
Degrees by Juvenile, lyrically, obviously, it wouldn't be that, but it's more important.
right. And so people need to stop this whole thing that like the Black Star album was a classic. It was never a classic. It didn't even get 4 mics in the source, Mike. I thought they maybe should have gotten 4 mics, but not more than four. And they got 3.5 for a reason. The album wasn't like that. And wait for it. They weren't all the way like that yet on that album. You can tell that they were straight off the block and still learning how to record. You can tell Mos is more polished. Talib is not there yet. Their solo projects that came out after this are both superior projects to this album. What we all talk about when we talk about Black Star is the what if, because we haven't been given a not.
I think that's the strength of it, and and we spoke about this offline because I know that some of the Black Star, Talib, and Mos Def fans kind of felt the way about how we approached our conversation last episode. And I'm a Mos Def and Talib fan and Black Star fan as well. But I think a lot of this is because, let me get to these super chats because I do really want to go in on this.
Me too.
Shiesta 30 says Jay-Z can only make features nowadays. Yeah, until proven otherwise. And Man was asking if we're going to do the mock versus redo today. I don't know if we're going to have time to do that, but we'll see. But as far as the Black Star thing, right? I think that we kind of were gauging, or we hold their legacy up basically based on potential and what they could have been based on how we know how strong these guys are as individuals. Because I told you offline today, I think Train of Thought, in my opinion, is probably the best album between the two of them. And I would go Black on Both Sides after that, maybe Auditorium after that. But I thought Train of Thought was brilliant.
So much.
But I will say this, the Black Star album, it's not either one of those.
Right. So
End
here's
to
my
end.
question. How many songs have these guys even recorded together? That's what I'm trying to say. Do we even have 15 songs of these guys together? Because that might be the reason that you feel the way that you feel.
They got a lot together. Because if we look at history and we look at like Bright as a Star, stuff that never really surfaced, and they got like the beef thing where they did on Chappelle's show. Like they have some magic moments, but a lot of those magic moments are after this album. And this is when they've kind of grown into their own individually and they came back together. You know what I mean?
No, Mike. I think I hear what you're saying, but Mike, what I'm trying to say is how many moments exactly? Not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot.
Brief. So what I'm saying is that this is some of that Andre stuff going on again, where it's been so
Lauren
brief.
too.
Lauren too. No, it's been so brief that you're looking at it through a colored lens, and you just need to look at it in a lens like on some up and down rap shit. How does it look? On some up and down rap shit, let's just stay with their contemporaries. Common and Black Thought, by way of the Roots, during the same time, released stuff far superior to the Black Star.
Now that's true. Now if we let's do that, because I know a lot of people like to group, I guess I hate to say it, the conscious community in categories.
Well, apparently I like mainstream artists too much. Let's talk about Thought and Common in relationship to these guys in the same time frame. Them dudes wasn't like that.
Yeah, because not Black on Both Sides. Like Water for Chocolate and Things Fall Apart are they're another level above the Black Star album.
Man,
And, and I think even with the 3.5 mics that they got in the source, I didn't like the way the source wrote that article on Black Star because the review was so unfair. All they were talking about was Tribe. It kept talking about Tribe and them not being up to Tribe's level, and I thought that was unfair to Black Star because review the album, don't use the whole time to, talk about a whole nother group. But that's what the standard was. You know what I'm saying? And if we want to talk about classic, what songs stood the test of time from that Black Star album? I would say Respiration. I would say Definition. Mm-hmm. I liked Redefinition, but I couldn't put that there. And maybe Brown Skin Lady. But I do think that it did mean a lot to the Ruckus label,
It's a good album, Mike. It's a really good album. It's not a classic. It never was. It wasn't a classic then. It's not a classic now. And here's what I am going to tell you. Since we know that we're getting it, it needs to be way better than the first one for how they've been played up in this community this whole time. For while they, guess what, Mike, as a group, and because somebody said this in the comments, no, Coop, they've been working. First of all, I know Talib been working. Most has done some work. This group ain't did no work. That's what I'm really trying to get at.
Talk about the group, not the individuals. Yeah.
Not the individuals. This group doesn't have any real group work to go off of like that. And that's why it seems greater than it actually is. But here's what I know. They both had time separately to become who they want to be, release albums and be great and do all these other things. This album needs to be great.
And the great Madlib is producing it. We got Jordan House saying that the Black Star album isn't necessarily a classic, but its highs on the project are crucial. Now, that I agree with as well. Yes. Let's get to the news part of it, right? Talib, after me and Coop, you know what? Hold on. No, let me say this first. Talib has announced that Black Star is releasing their album, their sophomore album, No Fear of Time, which is an interesting title, on May 3rd, 2022. Black Star Keeps Shining, Talib Kweli, Yasmin. You can only hear it via the Luminary app. Subscribe today. The Luminary app is $4.99 a month. I think they do like a 7-day free trial. Now, this is what's interesting, right? So, let me go back a couple days. You and I talked about this subject this past Wednesday. Today's Friday. I don't like dating our shows, but I think it's necessary for the discussion. So my guy Brandon, who does a whole lot of research for According to Hip Hop, he sent me that little clip that I played this past Wednesday where Talib was talking about the Black Star album and its release and this and that, and or their issues with releasing it. You know how old that interview and that clip is, Coop?
I'm afraid.
I looked on YouTube, and that Hot 97 interview from Ebro, where Talib was talking about the Black Star album and its release, that video on YouTube is 11 months old. Now the posts from the individual, I think it's I Used to Love Her page from Instagram. Now that was about 4 days old. But
I love that page, by the way.
Yeah. So, but when Talib actually said that in the Hot 97 interview, that was 11 months ago. So we talk about this Wednesday, and we say what we had to say about the release and the album and Black Star not coming out with anything in 24 years now. And we get a date. Shout out to the people.
Voila. Magic.
Shout out to the people. But I will say this.
Right.
I still, and I understand not going on streaming platforms and this and that. I guess they were able to figure it out, and I guess they understood, that you could put it on a website or something.
Mike, but can we have a quick conversation? Like, these two dudes need to stop playing it like they're the people's champions because they come from the underground. Like, you're not the people's champion, okay? Like, neither one of these guys are the people's champion. Okay?
Why not? Why you say that?
Well, first of all, on one guy's side, in order to be the people's champion, you actually have to walk with the people and be around the people. So one person is immediately out of that. You get what I'm saying?
I
You
feel
got to
you.
walk with the people and be around the people to be the people's champ. Okay? That's the first thing. The other person, well, you cannot alienate and degrade the people either.
Well,
And
that's
so
true too.
one guy doesn't show up and show out to people consistently. One guy gets alienated and disrespects and disregards the people. And you guys got one good album together that came out when I was in high school. And Mike, not a senior in high school. Like I was still a junior when it came out. It's been forever. I'm 40. And so when people are like, we're trashing the underground, no, I'm not trashing the underground. I'm looking at it through real eyes like a real grown ass man. Okay? Like you're not the people's champ. The people's champ is somebody who's here in the streets with the people. That's not Mos or Talib. The people's champ is somebody who uplifts the people. That's not Talib or Mos. So what they really are is like the rest of the MCs that are doing things that benefit them in their lane and what they've gotten known to do. They're not special.
You know
They're
what?
no,
When I
they're
started,
no different than Jay and Nas in that regard, okay?
well,
So stop.
I think no one's bigger. No,
They're not the people's champs.
I think no one's bigger than the music and no one's bigger than the people. I've always believed that, right?
That's not like the industry. So what? Most knew that most knew what the industry was before he walked in the door as much as anybody, and still chose to walk in. Oh, Most Def really doesn't like industry politics. Oh, he took a couple deals and made some money though. He liked them then.
I think we stand on two different sides on that. I agree with you to an extent. My thing is, it's interesting that this was actually said, and I think this needs to be said. That clip that I played Wednesday was actually said 11 months ago. And so, as of
That's their
today,
narrative.
huh?
Because that's their narrative, Mike. That's what I'm saying. They
And so when it actually gets talked about,
yeah.
so when it actually gets talked about, and we actually put out some solutions, because I still have some ideas as far as like this is a great opportunity because this is one of the rare groups, and there are a few groups out there that people who have that core base and that cult following will really check for in that way. I don't know if the streaming thing is the best outlet for that. Because some of the feedback that I'm hearing from people are like, look, you haven't put out an album in 24 years and you want us to pay a subscription to hear this album? So technically, let's be real, on a subscription base, right? Let's just say $4.99 a month, $5 a month. Over a year's time, to keep this album, that's $60 a year. Maybe I'm misunderstanding how this works, and I would love to have Talib on the show to actually explain how this is actually going to work. But if you have people paying for your album on a subscription base, we pay for Spotify, Apple Music, and all that because we have access to all the albums. I wouldn't be paying for Tidal or whatever if I just had one Jay-Z album monthly. You know what I mean? So number one, I think that needs to be explained. I don't want to say it's off, but one of our followers or one of our subscribers, they said in the chat, in the post or whatever, when we were talking about it, they should do a pop-up shop, and I'm with that. Like I thought that's so innovative. If they want to take out the industry politics, the middleman or whatever, they print up these, disc or even put it on the device, however you want to do it. And you do like a little pop-up shop. You just got like 1,000 units. You got your merch and all that. Do that for a weekend or a day, however you want to do it. Chappelle's down with their podcast, from what I understand. Y'all all show up, form real quick, sell that joint out, and clear house and be good. And then for the people who didn't get it, then put it on the website where they can purchase it. I don't like that whole subscription model thing. I don't think the subscription model is based on individual music. I think it's based on an array of music, a catalog of music, but subscriptions for an album and some podcasts, I don't know.
I mean, Mike, they understand how they got here, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
So they need to take it back to the Park Jam and just do a live venue and literally invite everybody and sell their merch and their product right there in Brooklyn. Right there. Like, this ain't hard. Ain't that? Hold on. Isn't that where people found them? In those ciphers in Brooklyn? Yeah. In the streets with the people, which is where their legend was grown. You see, people be trying to make it seem like they still with the people. That's what I'm saying. It's like, man, you sound as political as Jay does with how y'all are running this down, just from your own perspective and angle. They're just not as big as Jay and Nas. They're still running their angle. It's like, man, quit that angle shit and take this shit back to your roots, because you only gave us one album. The album wasn't as good as When Things Fall Apart or Like Water for Chocolate. The shit barely better than Beats, Rhymes, and Life, Mike. Shit barely better than Beats, Rhymes, and Life. So, like, stop that.
TD says too many podcasts already, and I agree with that. And I appreciate, and you know what? When we do our podcast, I appreciate the fact that you guys religiously listen to us, because there are a lot of podcast options out there. And there are a lot of free podcast options out there. So to ask people to pay not only for an album from a group that hasn't put an album out in 24 years on a subscription-based level, I don't know. My personal opinion, I think it's a little misdirected, because people feel like you haven't given us any music in 24 years and now we owe you. I mean, these are some of the things I've heard people say. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm excited for it. I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to listen to it because I want to hear it.
Okay, Mike, so I'm going to let you know. I'll be stealing your subscription to listen, because I'm not paying for it, because here's why. A, you're paying for it now. That's great to hear. That means I'm
paying for it. Nah, man, I got to support. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to tell you something. Mike, you remember Stephen Lloyd?
Yeah, I remember Stephen Lloyd.
Stephen Lloyd taught me something very valuable about my blackness. He said, stop thinking that you have to do right by people who don't do right by you just because they're the same color that you are.
I couldn't stand Stephen Lloyd. Jason with the super chat. It says, just got the book. Shout out. What's Pusha T?
Like Stephen Lloyd?
What about Pusha T not dropping? We'll get to Pusha T not dropping. No, I didn't like Stephen Lloyd at all. One of the few people in life that I truly didn't like. And maybe he's watching the show. Who knows? There's only a few people. There's a handful of people that I
really? That's Southside Old Nat in the house.
Didn't like Stephen Lloyd. And you know what made him even more unlikable is that all of you guys liked him. Me and Vashawn were the only people that felt the same way. Like, I don't like this nigga, man.
I learned a lot from him as a man. But hold on. I'll say this too.
I didn't like his approach. I mean, I see certain things now. I didn't like his approach.
Hold on. And I'll say this, but correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm going to tread lightly with this. You and Vashawn had your fathers in the home, correct?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Vashawn, but I know I did.
I think that had something to do with it too. His way is probably more for those of us that didn't have our fathers.
Yeah. I'm like, nigga, you not my daddy.
Right. No. He's the reason I started getting my shirt pressed at the dry cleaners, like stuff like that. Like he taught me, he used to embarrass me. He'd be like, hey, it's Coop, everybody. It's the last one to walk out of the club at Buckhead, which was true. But didn't have to tell everybody at work that.
Shout out to Midget Mike. He says, real recognize real. I'd rather give my dollar to the real. That's real.
No, okay.
I mean, and see, that's how people are feeling, man. Like, you know, it's like...
No, Mike, I'm sorry. I just got to express this because you know who's been on my whole mind while you've been talking about the subscription thing?
What's that?
Raekwon and Ghostface and Jadakiss and Styles, because guess what? If they were to pop up right now saying that they were dropping an album, but that you had to subscribe to a streaming service to get the album, people would jump on it in a minute. You want to know why? Because you knew you would be getting an album from them, but they've been putting in so much work over the years that you know you get to hear all that other stuff at the drop of a dime. And you feel much more comfortable about purchasing because guess what? You know them dudes have put in work, and the chances of them dropping something great based on the work that they've put in is high.
Not even just that. Not even just the quality of the work.
Don't have it like
it's the dedication to the fans, too. And people
Yes.
look at it like that.
Yes. Like if Ray and Ghost started a subscription service, Mike, I wouldn't care how much it costs. I'd be there right now.
And you know what? And even if it was trash, I wouldn't care because I know that those guys have dedicated themselves to
their whole lives to this craft. Not at their convenience.
No.
Not at their convenience.
There's something to be said about that.
That nigga Ghost almost died, went to Africa, came back and made Supreme Clientele. That's dedication to the craft, Mike. That
People
nigga
are
almost.
asking about Pusha T, man, and him not dropping today. You feel any way about the fact that he didn't drop today? What do you think that means?
If the reason for it was because Kanye West executive produced Fabio's album and all the push was behind Fabio, I have a big problem with it because A, he shouldn't get precedence over somebody like Pusha in this culture, and B, the music wasn't there to reflect that. So if that's the reason, no. But if the reason is that they've really sat down and given Pusha T's album a listen, and not to be funny, it's not dry yet. Like literally, it's not dry yet. Like it's still wet. You still need to work in. You need to still let it sit a little longer. Like I'm with that, Mike, because I haven't been overly impressed with the 3 singles that have been dropped. I haven't been. They've just been dope records.
Leroy Green says you don't like businessman. You don't like businessman Hove, Mike. So you don't like Tidal either.
We don't like.
Y'all want me to talk about Tidal real quick?
I'm about to say, Mike, I don't even know why Leroy did this. Mike, go ahead.
Well, the thing about Tidal is the fact that, obviously Tidal was third to the party, because I think Spotify was first and then Apple Music. I remember Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine started that beat streaming platform, and that's what Apple bought that and the headphones. And then here comes Tidal, pretty much kind of a shell of a smaller company that Jay went over there and bought and wanted to get into that streaming game, which I thought was awesome. And the concept was for artists to have ownership in music. And they sold the public on the fact that, this was actually the streaming platform for the artists. I'm with that 100%. And I think that the fact that Jay had the leverage between his catalog and some of the stuff with his wife and some other catalogs to actually make it exclusive on Tidal, I thought that was a great idea. I really love the fact that I think all the streaming services serve their own purpose. I think Spotify is great at the playlist. I think Apple Music is great with their radio mix shows. I listen to Abstract Radio on their Q-Tip show and stuff like that. What Tidal had was that exclusivity that kind of hovered around Jay-Z and Beyonce and live performances. They stopped doing that. And so right now, Tidal just costs more for no reason. And not to mention that the artist shares are no longer in play. And, selling artists on the ownership, that now belongs to Jack Dorsey, if I'm, correct, because that was all bought out. So that Jay could sit at get a seat at the table at the Cash App table, which is fine. But at this point, I think they still give artists more than some of the other streaming platforms, but it's not a lot anyway. I thought the whole point was ownership and exclusivity. And I think if Tidal did more of exclusive concerts and things like that, then I think it'd be a viable product for the public. I think that it sounded like it was going to be a viable product in the beginning and then turned out to not really be. Because what does Tidal have over the other platforms? Again, Spotify does a great job with the playlist. If you own the Pandora does a great job of randomness, and Apple Music does a great job with the radio. So what exactly does Tidal have? Let me know, Leroy Green. I'm glad we're having this conversation. We're talking about business. Shout out to Midget Mike. He says, artists too lazy today. They want to get a rich, quick rap. Are you talking about Black Star? Because it's interesting because I feel like Adriel Green says, I'm going to get to that point in a second. Adriel Green says, retroactively, do we all think that KD1 is on par with KD2 or Magic? Personally, no. Magic is 5 mics, KD2 is 4.75, and KD1 is 4.5. I agree with that statement totally.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And if we're going to give KD2 a 5, I'm cool with that. But I think that those two are drastically better.
How about this, Mike?
Where's OG Juan at? Hold on. We got OG Juan in the room? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
KD2, like part of the classic feel of KD2 is what he's pulling off. Mm-hmm. Like Nas has never pulled off stuff like Brunch on Sunday and it sounds seamless and sound good. Nas has never put guys on records that are 20 years younger than him and it meshed well and sound natural within the framework of an album. Nas has never rapped over a beat that has Future getting sampled on it and it sounds like it slaps. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's doing things on KD2 that's totally outside of the realm of all his other classic
Style
stuff.
points.
Right. That like KD2 is his Style Points classic album. All the other classic albums play like classic Nas albums doing classic Nas shit. Illmatic, It Was Written, Lost Tapes, Godson, Even Magic. That's classic Nas. KD2 is Nas that's doing everything and stepping outside of the box. That's part of what makes it classic. It's like I listened to Brunch on Sunday, last Sunday, Mike, and I genuinely enjoyed the record. I'm like, this shit sounds great listening to it on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally on that. And I think it aged very well. I think that, I mean, it's tough to say that because it's not super old, but we can kind of tell. Like, it still sounds as fresh as it did when I first heard it. And I love Nobody, honestly.
Mike, when Nobody comes on randomly on my playlist, I'm thinking like, damn, that already sounds like a classic hip hop record.
I really wish that was the song he performed at the Grammys, even though I loved his Grammy performance. But I wish he would have performed Nobody, because I think there's a lot of people who aren't aware that that song exists that would have gotten a whiff of that song on a Grammy stage, especially with Lauryn Hill out there.
And Mike, just in retrospect, I think Store Run is probably the best song on the album. But Nobody's going to be the song from that album that gets played the longest and the most, because I don't think we're getting another Nas and Lauryn Hill collaboration. And we're definitely not getting a rap song with Nas and Lauryn Hill. Like, if we get them again, it's probably going to be her singing. But, like, we got Nas rapping at a high level and Lauryn Hill rapping at a high level on a record together, and it sounded organic and comfortable. That's classic, Mike. That's about to live. That's one of his greatest hits.
I want to get to that statement where somebody, I think it was Midget Mike, that said rappers don't want to work anymore. They want to get rich scheme. I mean, okay. I think with the Black Star, I guess we could say resurgence or sophomore album 24 years later, I can't think of anybody in music that's ever put out their second album this further down the line, right? Because we're looking at them as an official duo. I think that really, man, when you're doing it like this, it's not as easy as just uploading something to a platform and telling people, boom, go get it here for $4.99 a month. I think you really got to go out there, like you said, be man of the people and put feet to pavement and really make this thing an event. It's just my opinion. Even when Tribe went out there and put out their final album, it wasn't even this long. Like, we've gotten a new Tribe album before we got a new Black Star album.
Mike, it's just, there's no reason or rationale for it. And when your rationale is well, most Def doesn't like industry politics, it's like 24 years worth. It's funny, like, he liked industry politics enough to put out 4 solo albums, didn't he? Like industry politics enough to do Dave Chappelle show and contribute to that. It's like people can't be picking and choosing their spaces to craft that narrative like that. That's what I didn't like about it. It's like, don't craft the narrative and take advantage of y'all being the people's champs. That's why I was saying, it's like,
well,
no, y'all not
I'm okay with. Listen, I'm okay with artists, because Prince did this too, not wanting to be involved in the streaming platforms. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I feel you. I ain't talking about, obviously he's on another level musically and everything, but what I'm saying is, if they don't want to, because I've heard Organized Noise talk about streaming platforms too, and how they're not used to that format where people are basically getting music essentially free, and big companies are getting rich off of that. I get that, but there are options though. This is the thing, and social media, there's a lot of perks to it as well. Even though people have this much access and this much streaming, Talib has not only a platform on his own, he has a podcast, and obviously him and Dave and all of them have a podcast as well. You could cut all that digital stuff out, and I think a pop-up shop would be not only something that cuts everything out, it would be iconic. It would. You get images from, a pop-up shop, and actually people getting the music from the artist. I think that's priceless, and I think that, we always say that, these people don't owe us anything. I think Black Star at least owes the fans that. That would be a dope thing to do a pop-up shop and actually get there and build with the people, perform with the people that you used to perform for, like you said, when you were discovered, and actually hand to hand type thing. I think
Mike,
that would have been great. I mean, but now when you're asking people to subscribe to something for $4.99 a month, it comes across as something else. Because I've been looking at some of the comments, man. People aren't really taking that well. I think people would have taken it better if you would have just put a solid price on a website for the album and sold it that way.
Bro, Mike, this is what I'm saying. So, and I kind of knew we were going to get to this, so I'm going to bring this up. And this is how the business of it works. So, you know who Vince Staples is signed to, right?
I don't know who Vince Staples is signed to. Is it
Oh, Mike. Oh, you didn't know he signed to Blacksmith Recordings? You know who owns Blacksmith Recordings, or half of it, right?
Who's that?
Talib Kweli.
Oh, okay. Well,
So he obviously doesn't have any problem playing industry games as a boss, because Vince is signed to his label.
well, that's very interesting. I had no idea.
Very interesting. You see what I'm saying about
So
how
it's okay for other people to stream stuff. Well, he said Mos Def had a problem.
No, it's okay for you to eat off Vince's streams, but your boy Mos, you got different feelings and ways of handling that. You're full of shit, nigga. What? Done here with that. See how we wrap that up in a bow and show you how he.
And here we go again. See, no. I want Talib to come to the show so he can explain how this.
No, he already went on our IG page and I tried to talk and he respectfully declined.
He said it's not happening. Jay Short with the super chat says, I think he's saying Talib always seemed upset about his conscious label and seems interested in punishing fans for not crossing over like Common. Well, there was an easy way to cross over, man. Just connect with Kanye West. Man Ned says, Tribe, thank you for your service. 2016, a classic. Yeah, man. And I love the fact that they did that for the fans.
But it's really good.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's a great sentiment. That's what it's about. And, and even then, they were doing pop-up shops with the Tribe merch, and you were getting it exclusively from the group. I think if Black Star did some things like that, that shit would go very far.
Mike, think about it. Blacksmith Recordings. Black Star. Blacksmith Recordings.
I had no idea.
Yep. Vince signed to them.
I had no idea.